But the change that we took on, the way in which we modified our behavior, our way of thinking, our way of analyzing, the way of approaching a problem, has now brought, thank goodness, an end to whatever this long standing responsibility, work, obligation, whatever it is, was.
Welcome to Cards and Constellations with Bonnie Morris and Don Rumor Rivera from Sonoran Mystic Tarot. Here, we blend astrology and tarot to guide you through the twists and turns for the week ahead. Don't forget to hit subscribe and share. Let's dive into your cosmic journey together.
Hello. The moon this week on Friday, the 1st, August 1st, we have the first quarter in Scorpio at 27 degrees, 33 minutes. Now remember, during the first quarter, we do all the work on whatever project you've chosen. And to find that out, we step back and find the new moon in Scorpio. That occurred on November 1st, 2024 at 9 degrees, 34 minutes of Scorpio. So check, where do you write your intentions down? I hope you did. That will tell you what you're working on right now. Then we have to move forward and find the full moon in Scorpio. That occurs on May 1st of 2026 at 11 degrees, 20 minutes of Scorpio. That's when everything becomes lit up. You can see the whole project, and if it's not exactly what you want, you tweak it. And then we pivot and start to turn away. We have to look for the last quarter moon now in Scorpio. It happens on January 29th, 2027 at 9 degrees, 7 minutes of Scorpio. And that's where we celebrate our success and turn away, allow the project to move on by itself, and we wait for another new moon. Now, in the void, of course, we're going to take a look on July 28th. The void, of course, begins at 5:56 p.m., and that is Mountain Standard Time, Phoenix time, at 27 degrees, 32 minutes of Virgo. It ends that day at 10:43 p.m., and that's when it enters into the sign of Libra. Then again on the 29th at 8:58 p.m., the void begins at 11 degrees of Libra. It ends on the 31st. Now, remember that. That's a long void, okay? It ends on the 31st at 10:25 a.m., and that's when it enters into Scorpio. I'll pause here and remind you, during a void, you never start a project because it likely will have to be redone. So unless you like practice, be careful. Finish up projects, fold the laundry, do the dishes, whatever it is that you can do, but don't start anything new. Okay, so we still have 5 planets in retrograde. But first, let's go to August 2nd. We have the last void at 6:06 p.m., 27 degrees, 33 minutes of Scorpio. It ends that night at 11 p.m. when it enters into Sagittarius. Again, we still have 5 planets in retrograde. Pluto's in Aquarius. Both Saturn and Neptune are still dancing in Aries and Pisces. And Mercury in Leo. Now, we also just started with Chiron in retrograde in the sign of Aries.
So, Miss Bonnie, if I hear right, it sounds like this week, no matter what sign you have, it's going to be a complicated week. Something's happening. Can you help me understand that?
Sure. This week, we start out the week, I think it starts on Tuesday. We see a kite formation. Now, a kite formation is a specific pattern formed by a grand trine, a big triangle, 3 planets. It's harmonious, it's good energy, but there's also an opposition. The point of the head of the kite to the tail. That's a tug of war. That's where things get sticky. The opposition is also linked to the other 2 planets in the grand trine. So it creates this kite shape when you look at the chart. At the end of the week, it gets even more complicated. We have 2 kites, and they're pulling us in 2 different directions.
I don't want it. I don't want it.
There's
And then you
also,
have these long voids, that have been
yeah,
growing longer and longer. And you, like you said before, about 2 weeks ago, we had one of the longest voids you've seen. And this week, once
it's
again,
even
we
longer.
have an exceptionally long void.
Yep, absolutely. And of course, there are also a lot of squares. Now, squares in a chart means that you have to act on something. If you don't, things are going to get real sticky. So, yeah, it is a real complicated week for everyone.
Oh my gosh. Then I guess we better get into the individual reading and see how this coordinates with the next sign up.
Hello there, Pisces. Look at that. I'm getting there, Dawn. Your ruling planet is Neptune, and this week it's in a conjunction with Saturn at the head of Kite. Now, this conjunction merges imagination and structure, though the balance depends on which planet is taking the lead. Now, we've talked about this in the past weeks. When Saturn is more prominent, individuals can actually channel your dreams, a meaningful, grounded effort. If Neptune is dominating, you may feel overwhelmed or struggle with the clarity. At its best, this conjunction will inspire spiritual or creative dedication when guided with healthy boundaries. Now, if you'll notice on this chart, there's a triangle, and that is a component of a kite. A kite is just a specific aspect pattern, and it's formed by this grand trine, which is 3 planets, and they're in a harmonious aspect. So it's good supportive energy for you. However, of course, we always have good and bad, right? So the head of the kite being Saturn, conjunct Neptune, so both of them are there, all right? The tail of the kite is a tug of war. So that's where you've got the problem. That's where you need to work. All right. Saturn, conjunction with Neptune, created this opposition. Tail of the kite is the moon, which is all your feelings. So the tug of war is about between the planet Saturn, which is responsibility, and moon, which is your feelings. You might feel like you want to go out with friends tonight. But Saturn's saying, hey, the dishes need to be done. The laundry has to get folded. You've got responsibilities. So you've got both of them tugging at you, and you have to figure out how to compromise that. The opposition created from Neptune, the planet of illusion, confusion, and delusion, opposite the tail of the kite, where the moon is all about your feelings. So the tug of war can heighten sensitivity and imagination. You may feel pulled between emotional reality and idealized vision. You may sometimes escape into fantasy or idealism when reality feels too harsh. However, you long for a deeper understanding, making you capable of great insight into the human condition. With self-compassion and grounding, you can turn emotional confusion into soulful wisdom. Now on chart C, where I highlighted a T cross, or what we call a T square. We'll go into what that means next week. I just wanted to show you. At the end of the week, though, on August 3rd, you're going to see the kite we've been referring to all week. But you also notice there's another kite. It's almost perpendicular. The head of the kite sending us towards Pluto, with the tail being Mercury sitting in Leo. So that tug of war is between the planet of transformation and change and Mercury, the planet of thoughts and ideas and communication and technology. And he's in retrograde, just FYI. So is Pluto. So for a moment, think about what part of your thoughts and communication do you need to change or transform? Dawn, what do you show in tarot?
Whoa, sounds like a whole lot of drama over there with that astrological read. Let's hope these cards are not as dramatic, especially in the feelings. Everybody's all into the feelings this week. What's the story with that? But let's explore. Who knows? Maybe this will be a feeling moment too. Who knows? I don't know. Here we go. First card out. Ooh, oh my goodness. I love it. Ten of Swords. Ten of Swords. I love it. It's closure. So I love that feeling. So there is closure. But I love this because there's a lesson with this closure. And that closure is, again, it's interesting. The closure is get out your feelings. Get out your feelings. This is a lesson to be learned because this is a lesson in reason. This is a lesson in understanding statistics and information and analyzing it with a what you call it? With an empirical evidence, maybe. Okay, something that is objective and not subjective. Okay, so let's look at that as this, because that's what this is. It's a closure, but a closure in reference to, again, an objective standard. And this is actually good news, because when you see this card, this tells you you haven't been in a great place for a while, because the swords would not be there if it were otherwise. The next card out, oh, look at that, 10 of Wands. I'm loving that. Now we have two tens. So not only are we bringing closure because we changed and shifted our way of thinking, but we brought closure, and so the work itself is being done. So not just our change is being done, but the change that we took on, the way in which we modified our behavior, our way of thinking, our way of analyzing, the way of approaching a problem has now brought, thank goodness, an end to whatever this long standing responsibility, work, obligation, whatever it is, was. And I love this because this is probably going to, and think about this, this is the end of the month, and we're getting close to ending the summer. So you know what? When you leave this summer, you'll have left it with a lesson, if indeed you follow through with what's going on here, because you have learned a lesson. And it's funny, you know, sometimes we mark our seasons by weather, or sometimes we mark our seasons by someone's birth or passing. This could be your marking of this season by a growth experience, an opportunity where you were tested, where you rose to the test, and you actually gained from having the experience. I'm loving this too, because the Judgment card follows this. So Judgment card says you've done some great things, you worked hard, you put the work in, and you're seeing the results of the work. Now, this is not the negative side of the Justice card, because this, again, those two 10 cards say you busted your butt, you did the work. So the Justice card saying, yeah, good things are coming to you. And ultimately, time to celebrate. That 9 of Cups. The 9 of Cups comes out and says, yep, let's celebrate. And I love that the 9 of Cups is there, because it's also saying, let's take a look back and let's look at and let's do an inventory of where we came from, what we've learned. So we're going to lock it in our database so we don't have to relearn this again. So we're locking it in as we celebrate. A wonderful energy this week. And I love this too, because the page comes in and the page is like, you know what? Get ready for the next thing because you are prepared. And I'm loving that. Now, the underlying energy for your environment this week is a little different. It's pessimism and negativity. And, you know, maybe one of the things that you have learned for all this is getting rid of that for yourself. We're not living in the negative world. We're not living in the drama. We're not doing that, you know, and maybe that's part of what this is, because again, you've got people around you who are bringing that. One of the things that 10 may be representing is cutting some people out of your life for a while, maybe putting them on hold, maybe putting them on pause, or maybe saying, you know what, I can't do that. I don't need that in my life, because the last thing you need to do with all this positive energy is have some negative energy around you. Those people will bring you down, and they don't mean harm. I'm not saying that, so please don't take it that way. They just are negative. And when they are negative around you, guess what you're going to do? You're going to slowly slip into the negative, because it's easier to be negative because we are biologically wired that way because of fight or flight, that fear factor, you know. So don't do that. Don't allow yourself to do that this week. Make sure that we don't buy into the negative. Make sure we bring closure. Make sure we decide whom stays and goes, what stays and goes, and then we move forward. And in the end, we celebrate an amazing lesson that we will use over and over again as time comes in the years ahead of you. With that said, Ms. Bonnie, how does that resonate with that astrology reading you just gave us?
Well, I did say that they long for a deeper understanding and that you are capable of great insight into the human condition. You have a lot of self compassion and grounding. You can turn emotional confusion into soulful wisdom. So, yeah, I think it fits beautifully.
Pisces, you got some work to do, but the best part is most of it's done. So move forward this week, Pisces, with that advancement and closure. And with that said, we're going to bring closure to this reading. And in so doing, we ask a little favor of you. Miss Bonnie, have you any idea which favor I'm asking?
Yeah, we want our buttons pushed. So if you look down in the lower right-hand corner, there's a subscribe button. Please push that button. And there's a little bell next to it. I want you to set that at all. That allows us to give you a little message anytime we post a video or go live. And we do those things. So if you want us to find you instead of you having to search us out. Now, if you're on my channel, Your Love Goddess, you've hit subscribe, hop over to Sonoran Mystic Tarot and do the same for him. Show him the love. Hit subscribe, set that bell. When you're done with that, go to Cards and Constellations and hit subscribe, okay? And then when you're done with that, we want to make sure that you have sent us the love. Give us the thumbs up. Most of all, share the video. Share it out, because bottom line, the information we're giving you is meant for whoever it resonates with. So if we've put it out and somebody else resonates with it, but I'm doing Pisces and they're a Gemini, that's still for them. So if you send it out, it becomes like a ripple. You don't know how many things that's going to affect. So please share us out.
Absolutely. With that said, love, light, and blessings from myself and my family, Miss Bonnie and her family, to you and yours, and let that sun shine in. Enjoy. Have a great one. Bye.